Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Yale MBA for Executives webinar, where we will discuss some of the factors and pieces of the application that you can really start to think about now and start preparing for before the application officially opens this August. My name is Liz Lewis, and I serve as an Associate Director of Admissions on the MBA for Executives team, and I am joined by my colleague, David.
Hi, yes, I'm also an associate director on our team. And yeah, I'm really excited that we get to talk to you today in the application, maybe in a little bit of a different way. Today I think that we're going to talk about it less about, okay, here's the exact pieces and here's how you might think about positioning yourself, and really more about ways that you can take stock and reflect right now to make good use of your time as you prepare for your EMBA journey.
Yes. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll give you a pretty high-level overview of the program. We'll talk about the structure, the curriculum, and then we'll take a deep dive into those pieces that David was mentioning of the application that's going to help you get prepared for our application launch in August. We'll then share some next steps with you to continue to connect and engage with us and get to know the program. And then we'll jump into some Q&A, hopefully answer as many of your questions as we can. But first, I want to point out this photo that you see here, which is of the Star Reading Room at Sterling Memorial Library, which we had the opportunity to actually tour last week as a team. I had visited the library before, but it was my first time doing an official tour, and we had a really wonderful time. What was your favorite part?
For me, I really enjoyed, we actually got to visit, there's this special room filled with basically, it's probably the single largest collection of research about Benjamin Franklin that I had no idea was hidden in this corner of the library. It was really an amazing experience.
Yeah, the whole thing was great. So highly recommend visiting the library if you get a chance to visit New Haven and Yale. But I really love this photo in this library because it's a really great representation of the history of Yale. As you may know, Yale is over 300 years old with a legacy of educating leaders in all sectors and industries across the world. And while Yale is quite old, the School of Management is one of the youngest graduate schools here at Yale University. And as you can see in this photo of Evans Hall, which is the home to the School of Management, it is much more modern and it's made of glass. And that was really done intentionally to represent the transparency that we believe should be a part of business. And that brings me to our mission. Our mission really informs everything that we do here at SOM. Our mission is educating leaders for business and society. As you progress in your careers, the issues that you face are going to become more and more complex. And with that, the decisions that you make are going to affect more and more people. And that's why we really believe in the "and" in our mission and how strong that is, because we believe in teaching at SOM not only how your decisions are going to affect your business and your bottom line, but also about the impact that it will really have on the world around you and your community and the people that you're dealing with. So who are we looking for? We're looking for experienced leaders, those with significant management and leadership experience, where the MBA in the executive format is really going to make the most sense. We do require a minimum of 7 years of post-undergraduate professional experience, and that really lends to the classroom. We often hear from our students that they learn just as much from their classmates as they do from the faculty and from the curriculum. So having some of this experience is really going to be important in the overall experience of your executive MBA. And with that is a demonstrated career evolution. So we're looking for students who have been on a strong trajectory. Maybe they're taking on more responsibility. They might be looking to move to the next role or managing larger teams. And they really want to be prepared for what's next for them in their career. Acceleration and access. So they want to do more, right? They want to have a greater impact. And they need the access to the resources, the opportunities, the community, the network that they can find here at SOM. And that brings me to our class of 2026. This lovely group of humans has an average years of work experience of 16, which gives them an average age of about 39. And I'll say that's really an average. So this is a typical average that we see, but as I mentioned, we require a minimum of 7 years of that post-undergraduate professional experience, and it really runs a range here that brings us to that 16 for this class. 15 different citizenships are represented within the class of 2026, which really adds to the global nature of the program. 63% of this group has advanced degrees. They have multiple master's degrees, MDs, JDs, PhDs. It's really an accomplished group that we were lucky to have join us last year. And something we're always striving for at the School of Management and in the EMBA program is gender parity. So we're proud to say that this cohort has 44% women. So now I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the program and what it would look like if you were to join us for the MBA for Executives. So this program does take place on campus in New Haven, Connecticut, every other Friday and Saturday for 22 months. Within that 22 months, you'll also have 4 residence weeks. So for example, the class of 2027 that will be joining us to start their program will be on campus in July for 2 weeks for their first residency period. They'll be taking classes, meeting their classmates, connecting with faculty, learning about their learning teams, and really taking a deep dive into the program to get started. After that, they'll come back in August, every other Friday and Saturday until May. And then between year 1 and year 2, they'll take part in a global network week experience. So our students have the opportunity to travel to one of our global network for advanced management partner schools. We're very proud to be one of the founding members of the Global Network for Advanced Management. And we actually, I think next week, our class of 2026 will be heading off on their trips. And they had an option this year of choosing from 22 different schools. I think they're traveling to 20 different places next week, and they're thrilled to kind of really get started on that. They'll be taking classes at one of these business schools across the world with students from across the global network. After that, they'll be back on campus for one more residency week to kick off their first year in July, and then every other Friday and Saturday from August through May when they graduate. So on those Fridays and Saturdays, when our students are here, this is a sample of what that would look like. This is a very typical class weekend that we have here. On Friday, we kick off class right at 9 a.m. You have a morning class followed by lunch. On many Fridays, we will have a colloquium speaker series. Our faculty directors do a wonderful job of curating this faculty, this series of speakers to come in and speak with our students. They are thought leaders and experts in their different industries. And it's really a great way to hear from some leaders outside of this organization and connect and network with them as well. You will then have an afternoon class followed by an optional cross-campus event. So our program team does an amazing job of making sure that you're learning about the community and that you're really taking in as much of the university as you can. We understand that you're only here every other Friday and Saturday, so we want to make sure that you're able to see as much of the campus as you can. So we host optional events for you. The example here is a hockey game at the Yale Whale. We often also go to football games, famously the Yale Harvard game, maybe a tour of the Sterling Memorial Library or the Beinecke Rare Books and Manuscripts Library, the planetarium. There are a ton of options and a great opportunity for our students to get even more connected. Saturday morning, we kick off bright and early at 8 a.m. with morning class, followed by lunch, and then an afternoon class. And on Saturdays, we're done at 3 o'clock. And we understand that you're busy working professionals, and that gives you some of your weekend back. You can get back to work, family, whatever it is you have to finish up that weekend. You get a little bit of that time back. If you'd like to stick around, we often have optional workshops on Saturday afternoons as well, which are a great way to learn some other skills, hear from some other faculty members, whether they're from the School of Management or broader Yale. An example here is our Executive Voice and Presence workshop, which is one of our most popular, and it's taught by a faculty member from the Yale School of Drama. But we do understand that life happens, and sometimes you're just not able to be here on a class weekend. And we understand that. So we have the extended classroom, which allows students to occasionally remote into class. There are some rules around this. You can only utilize the extended classroom a certain number of times per semester. Only a certain number of students per weekend can use the extended classroom. But it adds a lot of flexibility to our students, whether they're traveling from further away, have weather delays, or a sick child at home, or yourself is sick and you just can't make it to New Haven. We understand that, and you have the ability to then Zoom into class and be a part of it still. So a great flexible option for our students. So now a quick overview of the curriculum. You can see here nicely mapped out over those 2 years. In year one, you'll dive right in during your residency period and throughout year one into our integrated core curriculum. Now, this is a unique curriculum to Yale SOM. Both our full-time and our executive students both take this, this core curriculum, which is really organized around stakeholder perspectives rather than narrow functional disciplines. So instead of seeing classes such as accounting or finance and learning just about those narrow disciplines, you are going to take classes called the competitor, the customer, the investor, to really understand the full picture of what it means to deal with these different stakeholders in business. One example of a core course is our sourcing and managing funds class, which will bring in multiple disciplines of accounting, finance, and operations to give you that full understanding of how to source and manage funds within your business. This class and some of the others will also bring in more than one faculty member because they're really experts in their fields. And in order to get the best understanding of each course, it's important to really understand it from the experts that we have here. Between year one and year two, as I mentioned, you'll go off on your global network week trip. And then when you get back for year two, you'll dive right into your elective and advanced management curriculum. So with the advanced management classes, those are going to really build off the foundation of what you learned in the core in your first year. Some of the classes you'll take all together as a cohort, and then you'll have some option as well. So for some of these advanced management classes, you'll have the option to choose between 2 different classes in your area of interest and something that you would like to expand upon. And then you'll also take your elective courses. So for your electives, those will come from our pillars, our 3 areas of focus, which are asset management, healthcare, and sustainability. You have the option to specialize in one of these 3 areas. In that case, you would take 4 out of your 6 elective courses in your second year within that area, and your other 2 electives can come from within the other areas. If you choose not to specialize, you would just choose 6 classes from throughout that curriculum of electives and our areas of focus. Throughout, and then to finalize year 2, you will take your capstone core course, which is the executive, which is going to bring those foundations from year 1 and everything you learned in year 2 and kind of wrap it up and give you that full business education. Throughout the 22 months, you'll also take part in that colloquium speaker series that I spoke about and a leadership development curriculum, which will come from courses, our leadership practicum, different workshops, and coaching as well to give you a really great idea of how to be a leader in business. And that brings me to some of our application materials, and David will kick that off.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So, my hope here today is not necessarily to walk through an exhaustive list of everything every piece of the application. We have some great webinars that we run throughout the year, providing tips on each of these things. But again, really to think about how you can use your time now during the summer to really to weigh the investment that is an executive MBA, and then also be thinking about how you can position yourself most effectively when the application does open. So I'm not going to touch on every single element of the application today, but I'm going to try to focus my time today more on things that you can be working on now. So first off, let's talk about something pretty straightforward, which is your resume. This, in some ways, may be the piece of the application that you are the least concerned about or think about the least. But honestly, the resume is a really important piece of the application. It does capture some data points that we might get elsewhere in the application regarding your academics, which we'll ask about in other places, or your work experience, which we may ask about in some ways in the application form. But the value of the resume, there's a couple of things. This is really where you have the opportunity to present your life, your career in sort of a concise fashion and bring it together to craft really the entire narrative as you want to present it. So it's meant to be a snapshot of your professional experience, but also should include other things like, of course, your education, but even, we like seeing, what do you do for fun as well. And so, really, again, this is meant to be, that snapshot, but presenting who you are in a more narrative fashion than simply sort of listing details about your employment or your education. So what should you be doing now? I would say, first off, take a really critical look at your most recent draft. Maybe take the opportunity to share it with people that you know and trust and solicit their feedback, and really ask yourself, does it really accurately convey the narrative that I'm looking to present? Does it accurately convey the path that I've taken to this point? And do I feel like this presents me in the way that I would like to present myself to the admissions committee? So yeah, reflect on that narrative that it presents and make sure that it really is what you want to put forward. And then the other thing I'd say is don't forget to go back and review later. So definitely, maybe start a version, work with some track changes, get it all ready, and get a version done now. But before you submit later in the fall, whether you're looking for round 1, which should be in late October, or in round 2, which is in the beginning of February, or even round 3 later in March, make sure you go back and take a look. Maybe you'll have had more time to reflect by then and you might want to tweak things, or maybe you'll have been promoted or had some other exciting thing happen. So work on this now, draft something now, but then take the opportunity to go back later before you submit and do one last check. The next piece that I want to talk about now is our letters of recommendation. So we require at least one professional recommendation. Ideally, your letters, if you get more than one, we'd like for at least one to come from someone who has managed you or manages you currently. And then beyond that, someone, if you would like to get more, it would be, 1 or 2 other people who really know you well, both personally and professionally. So the first thing I would suggest is engage your leadership now. And this will be important not just for your letters of recommendation, but also for your employer approval, which is another piece that we can speak on later. But basically, to do this program, you really need the buy-in and the support of your leadership. So even though you may not be asking them to write a letter now is a great time for you to float this conversation and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing an executive MBA. I understand that this is a big investment of my time and frankly the company's time as well, with the amount of time that you're going to be spending out of the office. But here's the value that this is going to provide me, but also the company as well. This is the value that I'm going to be bringing back on a weekly basis after I come back from these class weekends, and then also help them to understand our program as well. When you're making the case for what you're looking for in a program, make that to them as well, so that when they write their letters, they understand why the Yale School of Management is a program that you're looking at, and so that they can ideally make good connections between your strengths, your opportunities, with what our program can offer. And I would say explore your networks as well. And we choose the word networks here pretty thoughtfully, because while we do encourage at least one recommendation to come from someone who manages or managed you previously, think about other people that you can engage as well. It again should ideally be people who can who can speak to you both personally and professionally, but think about who can compellingly speak about you, about your candidacy, about what you'd have to offer. again, take that time to make sure that they understand our program well, and really have a conversation with them. And then the other thing I'd say is set a generous timeline. And that's why it's good to have these conversations now, because honestly, if you go and raise this conversation with someone a week before the deadline, you're not really leaving them a lot of time to be thoughtful and to craft their sort of narrative of why they're supporting you. But take that time now. I would say maybe let them know, that you'd like to have it in at least a week ahead of the deadline, just to make sure that there's time in case there's any sort of technical issues. But set a generous and realistic timeline to help make sure that that comes in on time. Next, test scores. This is an important part of our application, and honestly, it is probably the most time-consuming piece of the application, although hopefully it shouldn't be too onerous. So we do require a test. We do not offer waivers, and we accept one of 3 tests. We accept the executive assessment, the GMAT, or the GRE. And what I would say is if you have a valid test score in your back pocket that you feel like accurately reflects your current ability, particularly your quantitative ability, but generally your overall academic ability, great, excellent. That is fine as long as it is not expired. So within the last 5 years, you are fine, and then you don't need to think too much beyond that. However, if you do not have a test, that's okay. Our recommendation would really be that you consider taking the executive assessment. We have previous webinars that we've hosted on this, and we have another one that we're going to host in a couple of months that I would really encourage you to tune into. But the sort of the bottom line is the executive assessment is designed with executive MBAs in mind. It is much more manageable in terms of the time required to both prepare for and take the test. And it just generally makes for the best experience for executive MBA candidates while still being as meaningful to us in the admissions committee engaging your academic ability. So most of my advice that I will offer now is going to focus on the executive assessment, although the same would hold true with the GMAT or the GRE should you choose to do that. So first off, schedule a test now. That doesn't mean you need to schedule a test for 2 weeks from now, but schedule a test now. One of the things that we've all done as a staff is we've actually all taken the EA. And I can tell you, while I'll say personally it was a fun experience, it definitely did create, I would say, a healthy level of anxiety in us. For us, it'd been a long time since we'd taken a test like that. May have been a while since we were out of the classroom. And so, it's helpful to get that test scheduled now, even if you're scheduling it for 3 or 4 months out, because it gives you something to work towards. It's not just this sort of, amorphous, off in the future thing that you're just vaguely concerned about. It's a concrete thing that you can begin to work to.
And I'll say it's really easy to reschedule as well.
Yes.
So that's the great thing about scheduling it out, having this goal. I personally had to do this. I had childcare issues on the day I was supposed to take it. And within 24 hours, you can actually reschedule that without any fee. So, a great option to just get it on the books.
Yeah, I'll say I had a very similar experience. I think I had to reschedule my EA twice, and both times it took me less than 30 seconds to reschedule. It was very easy. So yeah, definitely would recommend get something on the books now. You can always change it, as Liz said, but that helps give you something concrete to work towards. Will help you start to sort of, it makes it easier to invest yourself in preparing for this if you get something official. Next, I'd say create a study plan. And an easy thing is that you don't actually have to make this all yourself. GMAC, which is the organization that offers both the GMAT and the executive assessment, they have a really great 30-day long study plan that they put out that we would encourage you to take a look at, that really sort of presents, here's how you should be preparing over the next 30 days for the executive assessment. It's not a ridiculous amount of time to prepare either. The EA, they recommend generally 15 to 30 hours of study, which spread over 30 days is pretty reasonable. And honestly, it's a good proxy for what you can expect in terms of the rigors and time requirements of the program. So it's a good opportunity for you to sort of get back into that study mode. And so now is a great time to do that. I'm sure we all have lots of things going on this summer, but also I'm sure things slow down a little bit, hopefully for you on some fronts. So take that time while things may be slowing down a little bit and think about how you can be preparing for your test now. So also identify the resources that you need. So GMAC also offers some great practice questions, great sample tests. One thing I will tell you, my personal advice is start with a practice test first. I believe each the premium package, which is what we'd recommend, we actually have a discount code for that. So actually, my colleague on the back end, Malik, might be able to find and throw that into the chat. But otherwise, stay tuned for our webinar that's upcoming soon. But if you get the premium package that comes with at least 2 sample tests or practice tests, excuse me, take one of those up front. Yep. Get a feel for the test, see where your areas of strength are and where you might need to work. And then from there, go into practice questions, work through the plan that they've offered. And then for some of you, you might feel like you do need more assistance. I would say for the majority of our students, the premium package alone is probably enough, but there are instances where students have elected to take courses or work with a tutor. Your needs, your specific needs will be exactly that. They will be specific to you. So take this time to start to work now so that way, if you do feel like you want to take more time, use more resources to start to shore up and prepare, that you can do that. You don't want to be scrambling to do this within a week or two. And if you get started now, it will make it much easier for you down the line.
And I'll say we're happy to chat about it as well. Happy to chat about my experience, give you some of the tips and tricks that we went through as well.
Yeah. The EA is a great exam.
Yes.
And like I said, I mean, I had fun.
I did too. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah. So next, another piece of our review as we consider your academic ability, we have your test scores, but also we look at your transcripts as well. And this is basically meant to provide us, like these together are giving us an accurate sense of your ability to handle the academic and quantitative rigors of the program. So we do require transcripts from each degree granting institution that you've attended. This doesn't necessarily have to be each place that you got a degree. So if you did, if you have transfer credits or if you took courses that didn't result in a degree, we do still want those as well. But so what should you do now? First of all, identify all the schools that you've attended. So make sure that if you do, for example, have transfer credits, that you are mindful and that you go back and get those transcripts and start to gather them. For some of you, this may be very easy. For some of you, this could be something that you could do, inside of 30 minutes by going to Parchment or some other sort of degree collecting service or document collecting service. But start to get those now and save those unofficial copies, which should be sufficient for the application process. For some of you, as Liz mentioned, 15 students, or was it 15 different citizenships, excuse me,
yep,
were represented in the class of 2026. Many of our students are coming to us having been educated outside the United States. And so we know that for students coming from international institutions, sometimes the process can take a little bit longer in terms of getting those transcripts. So start to make those requests now, because again, the last thing that you want is to start to put things together 2 weeks ahead of the application deadline and then realize, oop, it's going to take you a month to get your documents. So start requesting these now, save them in a folder on your desktop, and then make sure that you have them ready to submit. And then also take a look through them. Take the opportunity to reflect. With an average of 16 years of experience, it has been a while for many of our students since they've been out of the classroom. And so maybe your performance back then isn't quite what you would want it to be. Maybe you don't even feel particularly proud. Maybe you do, great. But if not, that's okay. That is something that we do want to consider. But we also understand that when you have been out of the classroom for so long, you are not necessarily the person today that you were all those years ago. We do have opportunities in our application for you to reflect on this. We have an optional essay where you can talk about your previous academic experience and challenges that you may have had. So take a look at your previous academics, look at how you've done, particularly look at, do you have the ability to demonstrate strength in quantitative courses? Do you have a good number of quantitative courses, and how did you perform? And then you can consider taking advantage of resources to either shore up in those areas. There are some great courses that you can take online that are pretty straightforward, like MBA math, or maybe it's just that you want to take the opportunity to highlight that to us in an optional essay. But take a look through your transcripts, think about how they sort of fit into that narrative of, I'm ready for this program now, and this program is the right program for me now, is realistic for my goals, and also I'm going to be, have things to offer. So this helps you sort of as you are trying to make that case that I'm ready now. So yeah, take a look through your transcripts, reflect on them, start to think about if there's things that you might want to do, either to fill in gaps or to, to address in the application. Employer approval. So as Liz mentioned, this program does require a decent amount of time in person during the work week. Between the residence periods, between the global network week, between the Fridays of those class weekends, it's more than 60 days out of the office across 22 months. And so the thing is, you can't do this program without the buy-in of your employer. We want to make sure that everyone is all on the same page. For some of you, for many of our students, they may be self-employed, they're running their own business, in which case this is easy, sort of, but there are still things to reflect on. But for many of you, you will need to identify someone in your organization who can grant you the approval. The actual getting of the approval does come much later in the process. It's a part of our application process. Basically, in the application, you identify who can grant you this approval. And then if you're invited to interview, once you schedule that interview, we reach out to this person with the academic calendar and with a form that they need to complete. So that formal part of this process is very straightforward, but really you should do the legwork on this now, ideally, for the same reasons that we mentioned with a recommendation earlier. Meet with your employer, meet with your current supervisor, meet with your leadership, and share with them a current copy of the academic calendar. So I'll say right now, the academic calendar for the class of 2027 is what is published and live on our website. We will post the academic calendar for the class of 2028 at some point in, I would say, the mid-fall. But we do have something available to you that should still give you, even if it's not exactly what the calendar will be for your time in the program, it still gives a good sense of what you should expect in terms of times out of the office. And it should cover basically pretty much all the class weekends for your first year. So take that calendar, show it with your management, show it to your management, and sort of explain, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. This is when I need to be out. This is the type of support that I'll need, but also here's why. Here's the value that this is going to bring. So identify who that person should be, have a conversation with them. Who exactly it should be will depend on your organization. It may be your direct supervisor. It may be someone in HR, or if you're self-employed, it would be you. It's fairly straightforward. We have the option in the application for you to say, I'm self-employed. And then basically you commit yourself to taking and preserving that time for the program. And I would say if you're self-employed, still take the time to reflect. Take the time, look through the academic calendar, and make sure that you will have the time to both meaningfully dedicate to both your professional work as well as your academic work. And then again, make sure that you're clear with your goals so that you're being clear about the why here, so that the investment and the return on that will be clear, not only to you, but to your leadership. And then make sure that you engage them regularly as the deadlines approach. Because you don't want to go to them 2 days before the deadline and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to do this program. It's going to take me 60 days out of the office. You also don't want to have the conversation with them tomorrow and then not again until 60 days from now. But take this opportunity to start a series of conversations about the requirements of the program in terms of time, but also how you will delegate, how you will prepare, how you will build up, or what types of support you will need to build up to backfill for those times that you'll be out of the office. So yeah, now is a great time to start those conversations and to keep them ongoing throughout the fall or the spring, depending on when you apply. But now is a great time to begin that conversation. A couple of other things to consider. So these are some of the other pieces of the application where there's not as much necessarily that you can start to do now, but we ask for essays. We generally slightly tweak our essays every year. So we don't have the prompts for them ready for you to look at yet. But basically in the essays, one of the main things that we're really trying to gauge are your goals. Are they realistic for the program? Are they going to fit sort of what the program offers? But also your contribution. We want to know who you are and the experience that you will make based on your personal and professional contributions to your classmates. So, start to think about these things so that when the essays come out, you can read them carefully and answer the questions carefully, but be thoughtful about how they reflect to us your goals and the contribution that you'll make. Video questions. These are an optional piece of our application. We do encourage you to do them, though. It is a great way for us to get to know you in another manner beyond the other pieces of our application. There's not a whole lot that you need to do to prepare beyond be yourself. There's no special preparation that you need to do. They are meant to be sort of off the cuff and candid, but definitely something to be thinking about, and we really encourage you to consider doing it. Additional information, as I mentioned, we do have an optional essay. Think about as you look at your resume, at your transcripts, at all these pieces, is there anything that any questions that the committee might have? Are there pieces that they might not be able to pick up here, things either that they might not realize or that I want them to know. And think about how you can be really clear about any of those pieces that you feel like we might miss, whether it's things that you include in your resume or in an optional essay. And then the last thing is interviews. Our interviews are on campus. We have all the deadlines. We'll share them with you in a little while, but pencil them in on your calendar. So if you're applying for round 1 or round 2 or whenever it is, you know the weekend that you would be expected to be here, and you'll pick one of those days. But put those dates on your calendar so that you can be ready. And then the last thing that you should also be thinking about now is, affording the program. It is an investment of time and of money. And so, while you want to be making sure that you're considering how you're going to take the time for the program, you should also be thinking about how you want to pay for it. We do have a limited pool of partial scholarships that take into consideration both financial need as well as unique perspective and merit. So that is certainly something that you can use to defray the cost. So be thinking about how you want to position yourself, make sure that you are, filing your taxes and getting all those pieces ready so that you can include those with the application if you'd like to be considered for financial need. Explore your employer sponsorship. Maybe your employer has a program set up that you can take advantage of. Maybe you don't even really have to have the conversation. It's just there. But for some of our students, they negotiate for this as well. And so explore what's there and be willing to advocate for yourself because there are a lot of opportunities that you could consider getting at least partial assistance from your employer. Review your budget and your savings. Most of our students are paying for some portion of the program out of their savings. So think about, realistically, how you'll be able to afford this given your income, given your savings, given your assets, etc. And then finally, identify loan opportunities. Many of our students also will at least partially fund the program through loans. So we have other webinars that you can review to get more information on that. But one thing I would say now is work on your credit. Think about it like buying a house. All the things that you might do as you wanted to prepare to get financing for a house or a car, think about those things now as well. So make sure that you get that you're thinking about these financial pieces and that you get your financial house in order so that if you do apply and hopefully are admitted, that when you get that great news that you're admitted, you can immediately turn around and say, yes, I'm excited, I'm ready to do this. And you don't then have to turn around and say, ooh, how am I going to pay for that? So these are the pieces that I'd encourage you to be thinking of now. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Liz to talk a little bit more about the admissions process.
Thank you.
And then we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, so I'll jump into a little bit about the admissions process and the timeline for the entire admissions process here. So you'll start right off by submitting your application for one of the 3-round deadlines. After you submit your application, the admissions committee will come together, we'll review all of your applications, and then invite some applicants to an interview day. After the interview day, we'll come back and do another review before coming to our final decisions. Here you can see on the left is everything that David just walked us through. All of the application components are listed here. So some of the things that you can really get started on now that are going to be helpful to kind of get a head start on before our application launches. And then some other pieces that you can start working on later once the application has opened. In the blue box, these are some of those important deadlines and dates that David was mentioning. Definitely pencil these in, keep an eye on these dates. For round 1, if you're joining us now, round 1 might be a great round for you. You're already starting to prepare for that application launch in August. So mark down the end of October will be that application deadline where we need all of these materials submitted. So that includes your test scores and your letter of recommendation. Those need to be submitted at that time where we'll then come together and do a review. The interview dates for round 1 will be December 5th and 6th with a decision release in mid-December. For round 2 and 3, you can see those corresponding dates as well. We'll have an early February round 2 deadline, a late March round 3 deadline with the important dates listed there as well. So these will be listed on our website soon. So a little bit of a sneak peek here on what you should be thinking towards. So what are some next steps? If you haven't already, submit your resume or your LinkedIn profile to us. We would be very happy to do a review, give you some feedback, give you some personalized next steps as you think about the program. Attend some more events. We have a ton of webinars coming up to teach you more about the program. The executive assessment webinar will be in August. We'll have one on the Posen Commonwealth Fund Fellowship, which is a wonderful fellowship that we have through our healthcare area of focus. This July, we'll have one on financing your MBA. If that's something that you want to learn more about, definitely check those out. Join us on campus. We would love to have you visit us here at Evans Hall at the School of Management for an information session. We're also going to be traveling quite a bit throughout the summer and fall. So, keep an eye out from emails for us, check out our website, see where we're going to be. And we hope to meet you and connect with you further in that way. And then, of course, start your application. As we've mentioned many times, it will launch in August, so you can get it started. Anything that you've worked on throughout the summer, you can get submitted at that point and continue to work on it until that deadline. And then reach out to us. Any questions, we are very available to you. Happy to help answer any questions or talk you through any pieces of that application, emba.admissions@yale.edu. And here we are. You've met David and myself. Wendy Sung is our assistant dean for both the admissions and the program team. Keith Gallinelli is our director of admissions. Many of you have probably spoken to Emily Whitehouse, another associate director of admissions, and Christine Balzano. That photo on the right is us joined by our wonderful, amazing program team colleagues that you will hopefully have the opportunity to meet as well. And that brings us to some Q&A. So I think we've gotten some questions in. Would love to hear from all of you. Anything to get started on?
I see that we have a couple questions.
Great.
So one of the questions that I saw is there's a question about students being employed or unemployed at the start of the program. And what I would say is we do require students to be employed full-time during the duration of the program. One of the things about the executive MBA that really distinguishes us is that our students are leveraging their experience in their work during the program. The things that you're doing on these class weekends, you're taking back to your work on Monday and applying, and then when you come back to the next class weekend, you're reporting on that. So all that to say, while we do understand that things happen, and we have had students, unfortunately lose their jobs or change jobs during the program, we do require that you be employed at the start of the program. And so if you are currently unemployed, then what we would encourage you to do is to first seek employment. And at that point, then probably a good time to reach out for a pre-assessment. And we can provide feedback on your overall candidacy, your trajectory, your current work, and how it would lend to the program, and then go from there. But we do require all students to be employed at the start of the program, and then ideally through the duration of the program as well.
Exactly. We have another question here about our alumni network, how our alums are connecting with current and prospective students, and what our alums are doing to stay engaged with us. I'll say a lot. They are very much still a part of the program. They love to continue to engage with the admissions team, the program team, our current students. Many of our alumni come back as TAs and they help out in some of the classes. We have many alums who help on the admissions side. As I mentioned, we'll be doing some travel this summer to some of the places that we won't be going. We'll have alumni actually lead some events for us. They help in the interview process. Part of the interviews is going to be an alumni interview. So they often come back for that. They engage with us through events, and they do sometimes connect with prospective students and certainly our current students. As part of the Yale EMBA program, you're also part of the larger Yale network. So this is your Yale. So our alumni are very, very happy to connect in that way. And they certainly stay engaged with each other as they become alumni as well. They work on different ventures together. They stay friends. They become part of each other's families. So it really remains throughout.
There's a question about asset management and whether a background is necessary to pursue that area of focus. And one of the things that I think we want to be clear on is that when you apply to the program, you're not applying to an area of focus. You are welcome to indicate an interest in one of our areas, if you would like, but you don't actually determine whether and which area you will pursue until you're well into the program. That really comes at the end of your first year. So in the application, you can indicate, hey, I'm interested in taking courses in asset management or sustainability or healthcare, whichever it is. That's not binding. And you really aren't deciding until you select your courses at the end of the second year. With that also, a background is not required. A background certainly can be helpful, and we do recommend that you take a look at the curriculum for those areas and think about that. And then, particularly if you're taking asset management courses, those are probably the most quantitatively rigorous of the elective courses that we offer, although it's all quantitatively rigorous. But those are certainly open to you, and you're not applying to those per se.
But you do definitely want to make sure that in your first year classes, did you mention this?
Yeah.
That you're, making sure that you're strong on those math components that will come up in those area of focus classes. Another question is about the resume. Somebody asked if it needs to be more than 2 pages, is that okay? How does that work? Yes, we understand that for many of our students, you've been working for a long time, and you certainly have a lot more to add there. We have many doctors in the program, so that comes up as well. Yes, we can be more than 2 pages, but we ask you to be as succinct as possible when it comes to that. If you need to include a longer version and then maybe a shortened version as well, that works too. So it is possible, of course.
And this is a good opportunity for you to consider getting someone else's feedback as well. Go to someone that you trust, maybe someone outside of your industry as well. If there's industry norms, for example, for your resumes, have them take a look and ask them, like, do you feel like A, this makes the case for myself and my candidacy well? And B, do you think there's any superfluous data in there? Like any, are there jobs that I could provide a little less detail on or whatever it is? So like Liz said, it can be more than 2 if you need it to be, but be judicious and be willing to get feedback from your network on that.
Absolutely. I think we're just about at time. Did you want to do one more question?
I think I can do one more question, and then I do know that there are more, and so I apologize if I don't get to them, but we are happy to connect with you. I think the best thing to do would be maybe send your question to our admissions inbox, which I think our colleague can throw into the chat for you, and we'd be happy to answer. But there is a question about cases, and I will give you a very, very, very brief insight. We have a really, really cool case team at the Yale School of Management, which creates raw cases, which are these uncooked cases, literally, where they're providing a whole wide variety of different types of content, whether it's video interviews, spreadsheets, interviews, etc., really designed around the idea that you are learning to apply these leadership skills rather than just understanding what happened. And so these are integrated with our integrated core curriculum. So they'll be woven throughout multiple different courses. Many times, you're taking a look at one case from a certain perspective in one class and a different perspective in another. So there's a wide variety of cases that you'll use, but it is very much a part of our curriculum. And you can actually go, I learned this recently, you can go look at some of these and you can actually purchase them for yourself if you're curious to go explore. And they're really, really fascinating cases. So anyways, I know that you may have some other questions, but we are at time. So we do hope that you'll reach out to us.
Please do.
But yeah, I'm glad that you're here today thinking about this now. If you can't tell, Liz and I are both very passionate about this program. We've both been here for several years now. Really like this program, really like our students. And we're glad that you're here now at this point in the year thinking about what can you be doing to start to get ready. So any parting thoughts or words of advice, Liz?
I just wanted to say we are here to support you.
Yeah.
That's why we put this webinar together, to help you understand the things that you can get started on. And we keep sharing our email because we are happy to chat. We do want to connect with you. So that would be my advice. Connect with us. Come to more events, come to campus, get to know us, because we'd be very happy to get to know you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.